Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to the Mardi Gras edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I hope everybody's enjoying their Mardi Gras holiday as we kind of get in full swing now. Tonight, we talk about the home teams, the Saints, LSU, Tulane, the Pelicans. And to break it down for us, one of the best we have in this city, Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. Sean, how you doing? Happy Mardi Gras to you, my friend.
Happy Mardi Gras. It's a good, fun time of year. You hear the music. You'll hear it just kind of going around. And did some parade last weekend. I'm going to catch some parades this weekend. My 6-year-old is officially a parade addict.
She loves it.
She wants to catch everything.
That's awesome.
And bring everything home. So I'm kind of reliving Mardi Gras through the eyes of a toddler now.
Nothing better than, and again, to have the kids and to really kind of rejuvenate you. But I love Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras Jazz Fest, two of the things, obviously, that real big part of our culture. And I love getting involved in both and looking forward to a great weekend. Let's hope the weather holds out for all of us here in the city so we can enjoy our Mardi Gras celebration. Sean, before we get started, tell us a little bit about what's going on over at Fox 8 Sports. Of course, you got an award-winning blog. Give us the rundown.
A little bit of everything. We have the Final Play app, which is all of our Saints coverage. Just added something on Wednesday. I don't know if you saw Robert Meacham joining the De La Salle High School coaching staff.
Wow.
So that's interesting.
There you go.
Not official yet. It's going to be official after Mardi Gras, I'm told. But yeah, how about that? Also, we have our Fox 8 Overtime show, which will air 10:30 tonight on Fox 8. And then we have the Final Play at 10:30 Sunday night. And then we have our daily newscast 4, 5, 9, and 10. Tiger Huddles app, which is pretty lively right now considering how good Tiger basketball is doing and also how good LSU baseball start off as well. So it is the quote-unquote off-season, and so there's a lot more work, I guess, from the desk, but still there's phone calls and emails and texts to be made.
And you're doing a great job with the blog, breaking down the Saints. I mean, you talk about a lot of things on the blog, but especially now as we kind of making that little shift with, again, the Combine starting on tomorrow and then the opportunity to be able to, again, have all the coaches and the front office personnel in Indianapolis for that. So a lot going to be going on. March 13th, free agency starts, right?
Yeah, and look, the Combine, the Senior Bowl is really where the pieces of the offseason start to come together. The Combine's when it really gets going because that's where, all the football's done at that point and everybody's there. There's agents there, there's players there, there's coaches, there's obviously up and coming talent through the draft, through the college ranks. I'm told this week, and I would assume it's in Indianapolis, considering they're all there, that Mark Ingram's agents and the Saints at some point could meet this week and perhaps get something going with that. So there's a lot of things that happen. That's why there's no surprise where a lot of news pops out the week in Indianapolis. So it's here.
Right.
And the Saints, look, I think the hangover's over for them. I think they've got to. They got to turn the page.
Got to be ready.
You got to turn the page and get better for 2019.
Sean, let's start off again, kind of giving the audience a little feel for the cap room. It's all over the place. I hear 12, I hear 22 million, I hear 18 million. I hear they can get up to as much as 33 to 35 to 45 million based on, again, maybe tweaking some contracts. Where are they today? Where do you think, what's the maximum you think, without mortgaging the future, they can get to this year, considering not a lot of draft picks for this team this year?
Well, the site that I use, which is overthecap.com, which is pretty reliable. It's an analytics salary cap site that it's my go-to site. Has them at a little over 12 million. It's how much space do you think you need? Because you can give yourself as much space as possible if you want to redo contracts and restructure. The big one being Drew Brees. Look, that's always at their disposal, but it certainly seemed like when Mickey Loomis talked earlier in the offseason that's not going to be option A for them. It could happen if an opportunity presents itself and they have to make an adjustment.
Would they really take that $33 million cap hit this year?
You know, at some point you got to. You got to swallow the big hit.
Right.
You can't just keep passing it off. And it sounds to me if they can work around it, and this may be the year they can do that, then it would be worth it. They have $12 million. You know, they have Andrews Pete in a situation now. He's at $9 million, the $9.6 million cap hit. You can really help yourself there. It's how much do you want to spend? And we've learned in the past that you don't build through free agency. You complement through free agency. And you really want to settle in on a free agent. I thought it was perfect last year with DeMario Davis. That's the ideal scenario. Bargain contract, good, fair deal, middle tier contract. A guy comes in and becomes an instant contributor and a starter and really step right into a leadership role. So how much space do you need? You're at 12. Me personally, I think 20 million is about right. I think 20 million is enough cash to go in. You can sign your own guys. You can target one or two guys from other teams and make some deals that way. So that's where I see them going, about 20 million in cap space. Go out, sign your guys that you feel is worth it, and then go out and get 2 or 3 guys that they like to bring in for impact players.
Sean, let's talk about cap casualties, possible renegotiation of deals to give cap relief. We already know, again, obviously Kurt Coleman has been released. Whether they're going to make that a post-June 1st cut or not. It's $4 million now, $5.6 million if they make it a post-June 1st cut. Talk about some guys you think may be on the block here to be cap casualties so they can expand that cap room and, again, maybe get rid of a little bit of quote-unquote dead weight.
Well, unlike in years past, they don't jump off the page. The guy that jumps off the page is gone. It's Kurt Coleman. I thought that was an obvious one. They jumped the gun on that contract. All they had to do was kind of take a breath. Really, they could have got him for so much cheaper because it was
unusual for them too. Huh?
It really is, and Sean Payton falls in love with certain guys, and he just was a guy that he really liked. And he was a good locker room guy. He really was a good mentor. I think Von Bell really, the emergence of him. I think you can credit with Kurt Coleman at least to a little bit of that. But outside of that, this Cam Meredith, you can take a look at.
Cap hit?
You can get $4 million maybe in space. I don't know what the dead money would be off the top of my head. Do you want to do that? Do you want to maybe wait to see if he returns to training camp, and if you got to cut him then, so big, because then the cap hit is up, or then the hit is much lower. You spread it out over 2 years. I was looking at some other names, Ted Ginn. I mean, do you really want to even make that room even more thin? I don't know. AJ Klein's another name, but I thought AJ Klein played pretty well last year. And they did a pretty good job of finding that flexibility linebacker trio of Alexander Anzalone, Klein, and DeMario Davis, where Klein and Anzalone kind of split 50-50 with Davis playing upwards of 90% of the snaps. So those will be the names that you can look at. I tend to think that most of those guys will be back. I think the one you would look at the most where it would be okay, maybe they can do without, or they can do without, they did last year, would be Cam Meredith. But I still think they're a little bit intrigued because they never really got a full sample size out of him. So we'll see. But unlike in years past, there isn't he's making too much, get rid of him, making too much, get rid of him. Right. It just doesn't exist this offseason, which is probably a sign that the cap's been pretty well managed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, let's talk about Andrews Pete, because he's really the big one. You mentioned about $9.6 million against the cap this year in the final year of his deal. If they pick up the 5th-year option on him, they can renegotiate the deal and give him a new contract, spread that bonus out over the life of the deal. Some are saying that, again, they should move on from him, should look for him as a possible trade bait. They got to get back into the draft. Where do you stand?
Where I stand, I think he is a key player in the offseason because it doesn't make sense to keep him at 9.6. It just doesn't. Right. For
and
1
why
year.
When
for 1 year? I mean, if you see him as a guy for the future, extend him now.
Right.
Help yourself in present and in the future. Now, it would get a little hairy if Tom Condon comes in and wants top 5 money, because it ain't happening. Okay, it's not happening. And I said the Larry Warford contract and the T.J. Lang contract. Larry Warford averages out about 8.2, 8.3. T.J. Lang at 9.5. That's the comparison. That's the parameters for an Andrews Pete deal. If you can get that, I say go out and do it. Sign them. Free up the space. Go sign some other guys to help your roster, and move on. And then go on with a young nucleus of, Armstead's been hurt, but he's still a young talent. Pete, Ramczyk, Larry Warford, and obviously you got a center that you're hopefully grooming behind Max Unger at some point. But still, keep that cohesive unit intact. That's a fair option. You can look at the draft and say, man, I just don't like the way the draft's setting up right now. I just don't like the feel. Who can I look to on my roster to trade? Well, to me, Andrus Peat jumps to the top. All right. Last year of his deal, still young. It was a first-round grade for a lot of teams going in. And he's a guy that if you like him, you trade for him. And maybe if you view him as your long-term starter at the guard position, then perhaps you get a deal for the opposite team and the Saints get the draft pick back. Question is compensation. I had a debate in the Fox 8 Sports office. I went around the room. I said, what would you give up for Andrus Peat? One guy said a 4th-round pick. One guy said a 2nd-round pick. I said, I think y'all both. I think it's a 3rd-round pick. I said, if it's a 4th-round pick, keep him. No need for it. Sure. 4th-round pick's not 4th-round pick, keep him.
He's a starter.
He's a starter. 2nd-round pick, run to the table as far as I'm concerned. But if he settles into a nice 3rd-round pick, I think that's a serious option the Saints should consider. So that's why I think for all those reasons, Andrus Peat is a pretty important piece this offseason.
In terms of some guys you may think that they may go to renegotiate a deal, are there any ones that kind of jump off the page on you?
You can maybe look to Larry Warford, perhaps, but I think he's only got this year and next year, so it's not that you can spread it out for a long period of time.
I think Armstead has 3 years left.
Armstead has 3 years left, and you can go to him, but I don't. That just makes getting rid of him harder.
Tougher.
And to me, I think you got one more year with Armstead in terms of needing to see a clean bill of health. Right. If he's injured, if he misses 8 games again next year, I think you probably got to move on.
Sure.
And then what do you do with Drew? That's really the big one. And to me, I would work around trying to live with his cap hit and find other ways to get funds. And I just created 8.5 to 9, in my opinion, if you did the Andrus Peat deal. So I don't know who else you can really restructure that way you can spread it out over a longer life of the deal.
Let's talk a little bit about Mark Ingram. Again, he threw a number out about $5 million. Looking at it myself, $4.5 million a year is not a bad deal for both sides. Where do you stand? What do you think on that? I think he's not irreplaceable, but there are some intangibles there that may be irreplaceable.
He's not irreplaceable, but he's hard to replace, if that makes any sense. He's not completely irreplaceable, but we saw the first 4 games of the season. I mean, he is a key cog in that offense. And I really felt like if the Saints go back and self-scout, they're going to realize they made a mistake towards the back end of the season because there were more opportunities there for him to take over a game. I think they fell a little bit too much in love with the Taysom Hill package. I think that took away some snaps from Mark Ingram. I think you can probably find a happy medium there. I think he's important to this roster. I think Alvin likes having him on this roster, Alvin Kamara. I think Sean Payton loves him. I think on the market for a 29-year-old running back, good luck getting more than $4 million a season.
Agreed.
Or 5, whatever he's looking for. I think it makes too much sense. You're this close to breaking Deuce's record to become the all-time leading rusher. You love it here. He told me he met his wife. He had all 3 of his kids here. He loves New Orleans. He's a New Orleans guy. I think he fits in with the system. So I think absolutely. Now, the problem's going to come is money. If he gets what he feels is a below-market offer, he's going to test the market, rightfully so. But I think you said the number, 4.5. Between 4 and 5 was always the number I was thinking of. A 2-year deal, maybe with an option for a 3rd, or maybe an incentive-laden contract, or maybe he can earn a few more dollars if he has a great year. Win-win for everybody. But right now, I'm leaning towards it makes too much sense for him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, those intangibles. First of all, the leadership in the locker room. He is beloved. He is considered a leader in that locker room. One of the more underrated things he does is blocking for Drew Brees.
Absolutely.
And I mean, where do you find that? Immediately, to be able to protect the franchise. And of course, not a lot of tread on those tires when you start looking at him as a running back, 29 years old, but a guy that has been, I don't want to say lightly used, but again, hasn't got a lot of heavy usage that you would think for a 29-year-old running back. So, I mean, I think there are a lot of reasons why you keep a Mark Ingram on this team.
Yeah, and again, I don't think the market's going to be hot for a guy like that. I don't think it's going to be, oh, wow, Ingram's available. I think it's going to be a situation where the market's not going to just run to you for a 29-year-old running back. He's got some good years left, and I think he's played his best football the last 2-3 years of his career. He's shown, knock on wood, some durability over the last couple of seasons. So because that was a problem earlier in his career. So, yeah, I just think for all those reasons, it makes too much sense to come back.
Let's talk a little bit about Drew Brees. You mentioned $33 million cap hit.
Not ideal.
Is there going to be an opportunity to extend him, maybe? We talked on this show, we talked on the radio show, you believe that if the Saints would have won the Super Bowl, he was walking. He was done.
I will stand by that.
He was going to walk.
I still believe that.
You know, and I was under the opinion that, again, his family, his kids just love being the son of a professional football player. They love being around the locker room. And, you know, one of the things he has even said in interviews is, again, how much he's enjoying the fact that his kids can see him play. If you got something left in the tank, do you walk simply because you've won a Super Bowl? Now, the question is,
where is he at physically?
Right, that's right. Are the skills diminishing? And that's the question.
That's a fair question.
It is a fair question.
It's the first time I've questioned it.
Me too.
It's the first, because I've always was the guy, don't give me the arm strength.
True.
Don't give me the arm strength.
Yes.
I always defended it.
I was right there with you.
I could not do it this year.
Neither could I.
6-7 games of the season after Dallas, he was not the same player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the one hopper to Michael Thomas on the slant was a touchdown.
Yes.
I mean, and the whole no call is non-existent, right?
Not even an issue.
You know,
the deep pass.
He missed Ted Ginn on that dig route earlier in the drive. The deep ball again on that drive was really. I mean, he put everything he had in that throw.
Let me tell you something. If it was a hunting season and that was a duck, it would be dinner.
So exactly. So where is he at? And can you do some things offensively that can cater to a newer skill set of Drew Brees that doesn't necessarily
short passing game?
And that's why I think if you add a slot receiver, if you add a tight end, Drew Brees has always excelled at the seam route, and it's nowhere to be found.
They have
the three S's: the seam, the slot, and the screen.
Right.
Where have they been?
No,
they haven't been anywhere.
Right.
I mean, and that's the one flaw in Alvin Kamara's game is I don't think he's as patient of a screen back as they're accustomed. Now he can run routes like a receiver, but I think as a patient screen guy, I don't think he's quite.
You think that's something he can develop?
I think he can develop that. I just think it's a timing thing, and he was all over the map this year offensively.
Yes.
Because it was a new look to the Saints offense this year. There was a lot of new wrinkles to the Saints offense this year. And it's hard to argue with the results. They were a play away from getting the Super Bowl. But still, if you add that, even with a quote-unquote slightly diminished skill set from Drew Brees, can you still get the same output? I think it's at least worth a try to check it out.
Of course.
Now, if it's still a situation where he's clearly not the same guy and the offense takes a step back, then I think it's realistic to think that this could be it. I still think at some point, though, you got to have a guy ready.
Right.
Because you just can't expect him to play for another 5 years. You just can't.
Well, what's the expectation? 1? 2 more seasons?
I think it's 1. I think it's 1 unless it ends again like this and he's shown an ability that he can still play.
So you think this is Drew's last year?
I thought last year was Drew's last year. So I got to think this year's Drew's last year because, and here's the other aspect of this, fiscally, financially, you can't have Michael Thomas and his extension on the books.
$20 million.
$20 million on the books, whatever it's going to be, 19 and a half. And Drew Brees at the rate he's going to command, unless he's going to take a discount, which he did last time. He's going to do it again. Who knows? But so that's why I think there's a lot of factors where this could be it for
But
Drew
do you
Brees.
push a guy out the door
No,
that
you don't
has
push him out the
something
door.
still in the tank?
You don't push him out the door, especially since you got a receiver you're about to pay, and you'd like to have an all-world elite quarterback. But if it's shown that Drew is not that guy anymore, then you got to do what you got to do. So you don't push him out the door, but there has to be a realistic. A lot of questions will be answered next year, and it's not just because we were talking about not just the Saints' offense being good early in the season, record-breaking, efficiency, the amount of touchdowns per drive, touchdowns per drive in games. So all of a sudden, it's like they fell off the cliff.
We haven't heard any injury.
And we always hear it's not subtle when it comes to an aging quarterback. You fall off the cliff when it comes to an aging quarterback. So he's going to have to can he do it for 16 games next year? We'll see.
Well, would the precursor to that be if they extend him a couple more years? Or is that maybe just to be able to open up the cap room that's necessary considering it's a $33 million cap?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I don't know. I mean, if they extend him and all of a sudden he's not the player, and it's clear he's not the player, they're not just going to sit around.
No.
I mean, that's why, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback because, look, they were all in for 2018. And it's hard to knock every move they made because, frankly, they were a play away. but you're probably not going to keep Teddy Bridgewater now.
Well, that's my next. That's where we're going next.
Okay.
So take it. Take it.
But I mean,
take
so
it. Why wouldn't you? You know, Drew Brees the coaches know. They're there every day. They see this. Okay, they have a pretty good feel for. They know if Drew had an injury last year toward the end of the season, and maybe not talking about it.
That could be it.
They know that if they believe the skills are really starting to diminish, and they got to be thinking about this ahead. You know, whether they're going to have you for 1 year, 2 years. You put up the third-round pick for Teddy Bridgewater. You're going to get that back in a compensatory pick, probably back in 2020 if he signs elsewhere. But do you let him walk out the door? If you know there's a possibility this is Brees' last year, and then all of a sudden you're searching for a starter.
He may not have that. The Saints may not have that choice.
Right.
Teddy wants to start.
Right.
And you know what? He deserves the opportunity because he's better than some starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's had a hell of a road back to being a quality NFL quarterback again, given the gruesome injury, being a backup, going to New York, getting traded to New Orleans where he was a clear-cut backup. He had no chance to start. You know, he signed with New York with the expectation he was going to be, you know, the guy, at least for a year, and then they drafted Darnold, and Darnold blew up, and now he's with the Saints. So if I'm Teddy Bridgewater, I'm thinking, okay, the Saints are in my back pocket. I can always come back here. But like we were doing a debate today, and I said, where do y'all think he ends up? You know, some were saying Jacksonville. Some were saying Miami. I said, I got one. I got the Washington Redskins because Alex Smith's not going to be ready, most likely.
That's true.
It's a perfect spot for a 1-year revive my career place. Or if Alex Smith never comes back, he's the guy there. He's an efficient guy. They have a power run game that certainly suits his play action skill set. So I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to at least get the opportunity to start. And even if he doesn't win that job, just the opportunity to compete for a starting job where he knows he's got the chance is going to be enough to allure him. And plus, what's he going to cost to keep? What does he cost to keep?
Well, that's my next question. What does it cost to keep him? You can't franchise him. Okay, you're not going to pay him an average of the top 5 players at the position of quarterback to be a possible backup for you, especially with a $33 million cap hit with Drew Brees and your other needs. Even if you start kicking stuff down the cans down the road to be able to try to sign free agents because you don't have a lot of draft choices. They're kind of in a quandary here right now because you still need a backup quarterback. Taysom Hill's not the guy.
And that's why, you know, when they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, there were 3 things that could have happened, right? God forbid Drew got injured, you got a capable backup. Didn't happen. They win the Super Bowl, Drew fades off into the sunset, you got your next starting quarterback. Or you don't win the Super Bowl and Drew says he's coming back. 2 of those things work for you in your favor if you're the Saints.
Right.
One does not. Well, the one that does not happen.
Yes.
So now you're in a situation where you sure would like that 3rd-round pick back. I mean, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, but what would you rather have, Teddy Bridgewater last year or that 3rd-round pick now? I think we all
hindsight, you'd like the 3rd-round pick, but at the time, you got to say to yourself, considering what we've seen.
But they've never done that. They had never done that. They had never done the insurance policy to Drew Brees ever.
True.
Who was their backups?
But he's never
Chase
been this
Daniel,
close to retirement either.
True. Which goes to show you, had they already started to see something with Drew?
Right.
But every backup, Chase Daniel, Jamie Martin, Mark Brunell, aging veteran, Luke McCown, aging veteran journeyman, who in my opinion was their best backup quarterback. And Teddy Bridgewater is a competent starter as the back. They've never done that with the concern that Drew may or may not get hurt. They've never done that.
You got guys like Nick Foles that's going to be on the market. You got about two or three quarterbacks that's going to be out there that are going to be looking for starter money, looking to be starters. Any way you can maybe woo a guy like Bridgewater back?
No, yes. I mean, yes, if the market is cool on him and they say, look, we just don't think he's got it anymore and what have you. But this is one of those rare years where the draft class is just not as good as, you know, Flacco just went to Denver. Right. So he didn't hit free agency, but you could have counted him in this quote-unquote free agent class. And you can say what you want about Flacco. He's still a known commodity. Right. You got Foles. And you got Teddy Bridgewater, 3 guys. In my opinion, I don't know who's going to be the star out of this class of quarterbacks when it comes to the draft.
Guy from Tampa Bay.
Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick.
Right.
I mean, who I think is more of a is a backup in the NFL.
Right.
But still, I think
those are the 4 guys that you would think.
Yeah, and Tyrod Taylor's going to be a guy that's available who's won games and got to the playoffs with Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. So, I guess my point is, what we'll see. But the free agent class, if you and here's the other thing, go down the line. There's not that many quarterback needy teams, which is rare because we've never really had it to where every 2/3, 3/4 of the league pretty much have their guy. And there's a few questions here. Now, I counted maybe 5 or 6 teams that could use a franchise quarterback, which I'm not sure there's a franchise quarterback in this draft right now. And who knows if Teddy Bridgewater is still that guy, but I still think he's a competent quarterback that you can trust to go out there and execute your offense.
Do you see a scenario where Breeze says, this is my last year, my swan song, I'm going to go to all these stadiums, they're going to give me the rocking chair, I'm going to get the the retirement.
The Derek Jeter treatment?
Exactly. And that Bridgewater says, okay, I can hang for 1 year and work in this offense. Do you see a scenario like that? Knowing that he hasn't started in forever.
Look, I guess it's possible. But if he takes another backup year, that's 4 years.
Right.
That's 4 years as a backup for these guys are not wired to think like that. And look, NFL year to year is a different beast.
Absolutely.
So what you think in 2019 may not be the same in 2020.
And you never know what's coming down the pike as well.
Situations change, people get fired, new coordinators, the whole nine.
Sure.
So if it were, like, in case you haven't picked it up by now, if I'm Teddy Bridgewater, I'm looking for a starter job, and I'm trying to get paid.
No doubt. All right, that leads us to, again, the needs, because defensive tackle to me has to be one, wide receiver, tight end, offensive guard, offensive tackle, maybe that swing guy like a Clemente, quarterback, okay, and now has to be a need. And some are saying out there that safety's a need now that Coleman has been released. Give me your list.
Yeah, no, I think defensive tackle might be number one.
And why?
Because you can get by in the NFL if you don't have a wide receiver. You can get by in the NFL if your linebacker core may not be quite up to stuff. You are going backwards if you lose the line of scrimmage in the NFL. If you have a leak in your line of scrimmage, that's a 13-3 team goes down to a 9-win team.
Biggest difference between the year before and last year in terms of the Saints, in my opinion.
I agree. And so that's why I think Tyler Davis, and all of a sudden, what a fortunate situation he's in, because I think all of a sudden you got to bring him back. Now, he becomes maybe your most important in-house free agent, even more so than Mark Ingram, because you don't have enough bodies there right now, and you're going to probably have to sign a veteran, probably going to draft one as well. You got to restock that room because it's a hard position to find as it is, and we saw what happened last year when that line was working together. I mean, like you said, I think it was one of the differences between 2017 and 2018.
Now, Rankins, torn Achilles tendon. We're not sure. I mean, again, you can look at Okafor coming back. He came back, but he wasn't super effective early. Got better as the season went on. When can Rankins come back? He's in a position where, again, he's having to take on two massive players with that Achilles tendon.
And he's got part of his game is short area quickness. So you need the burst.
Right.
I'm doing the math in my head. It was mid-November when Okafor, and he started playing week 1. So what is that? That's a 10-month? Am I doing that right?
About right.
9.5, 10 months. So January with Sheldon. He's starting that season on PUP. Right. There's no doubt.
There's no doubt.
So what is that? You're into late September, October.
Gotta believe October
just to get back to 100. I mean,
just to get him on the field.
Just get him on the field. So I think you're going to have at least 8 games without Sheldon Rankins.
And you don't know what the situation is with David Onyemata after the marijuana bust. Whether he's going to be a guy that's going to be in suspended. We don't know if he's tested dirty before, and this might be a multiple failures of drug tests, which puts him in the protocol. Or if this was a one-time deal and maybe he gets it's a warning type deal.
I'm curious what happens with that.
Right.
Because I know that's been tossed around a lot, the suspension deal.
They already know. The Saints know whether he's going to be suspended or not.
Something will probably happen, but I can't imagine it being a huge suspension. I mean,
a couple games maybe.
Maybe, and obviously that's important.
Sure.
But still, I'm very curious to see how that transpires here with the Onyemata deal, because what do you got? Misdemeanor summons is what it ends up being.
It was misdemeanor. Yes.
So we'll just kind of see how that one goes. But I think they can survive it, and I think obviously when he comes back, he'll be a quality player.
Yeah. Let's take a break. We come back. We're going to dive a little bit more into free agency, the Saints free agents. We'll talk a little about the draft as well. We'll get into that. Well, then we're going to switch gears. We'll talk a little Pelicans. We'll talk a little LSU basketball. We'll get into some college baseball as well. Tonight, Sean Fazende with us here on Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stick around for a look at our underwriters. Thank you.
Burkhardt Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Tonight, Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports. Sean, we've talked about the needs. I think we agree on the needs. Now let's talk about possible free agent targets, where they go. Defensive tackle first. Where do you think they go there?
You know, they were very, 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 very close to getting Ndamukong Suh. He was the last, one of the last defensive tackles you faced this season. He's a free agent. Got a little juice left in the tank. Wouldn't be a bad idea for a 1 or 2 year deal. I know Sheldon Richardson has had some issues throughout his career, but still, he had a pretty good year last year. He had 7 sacks.
They tried to get him as well at one point.
He had 7 sacks. I'm blanking on what year that was. And then on the other side of the ball, I think this is a good year for slot receivers. You got Golden Tate, you got Cole Beasley, you got Adam Humphries. Of those, I think Humphries is probably the guy I would go with because he's the youngest. And if you really watch what he does, he's really good. He's an underrated player, and I think he works so well in this system because he can really defeat underneath zones.
I don't want to break your train of thought here, but how big of a mistake was it not to bring Willie Snead back last year? Considering what he did in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And the void that you had on this team.
Mistake. You could have used him. There's no doubt about it. Maybe he would have been the missing piece to. Again, you're this close. It's hard to knock the moves they made because
I know that.
Because the ultimate
but he
goal
wouldn't
was
have cost you almost nothing. Nothing.
But I think he had kind of at some point he had
something had to happen.
Something happened, and it just both parties just checked out on each other. And I who knows what Willie Snead would have done? But still, I just think it's was it a mistake? I don't know. Looking back on it now, you could have used a guy like that. 2016 Willie Snead, not 2017 Willie Snead, who was MIA. And I think that's what the Saints had. Like, what's wrong with this guy?
Right.
So I don't know that I completely blame him based on the sample size you had. And Austin Carr looked like a guy that could contribute. And he was one of the ones he probably leads my all disappointment team because I think there was a spot for a guy like him and he didn't take advantage.
No doubt about it. You were talking wide receiver. I guess tight end would be the next. Is that a draftable position, or are they going?
I don't like the tight end class unless a guy like Jimmy Graham gets cut, which the rumors are now he's probably going to stick around in Green Bay. I don't see a tight end fitting what you need because you need a playmaker. And while it is true, you don't necessarily. There's no guarantee when you draft a guy he's going to just come right out and be an explosive player. Right. I think. Anybody you sign on the free agent market is going to be nothing more than a complimentary piece. Whereas if you look to this draft, it's a pretty solid group.
It is.
Even at 62, you can find a really quality player because it's a good back half of the first round, early second round tight end class. But because there's so many defensive players that are going to get drafted, probably a few guys that probably have late first round grades might fall to you later in the second round.
Yeah, I got to believe tight end has got to be your priority, especially at the 62nd pick. Boy, I tell you what, that offensive guard, offensive tackle that I threw out there, a lot is incumbent on what happens with Andres Peete, because you may be trying to draft a guard or bringing in a veteran guard to take his spot. You know, you'd love to have a Clemente type that can swing because you've had so many injuries with Armstead at this point, but your back may be up against the wall a little bit here.
Yeah, that's interesting. What veteran would be available? I don't know. I haven't studied the guard market as closely. But for now, he's on the team, so we'll see. But if he were to go, you'd obviously go the veteran route and probably draft a guy as well.
Yeah.
And then I think they're going to settle in with Will Clapp as a guard, who I think. Look, he had his rookie moments, but I felt like he belonged last year.
I agree with you.
I felt like he belonged,
and that's about purple and gold glasses,
right?
And
it wasn't just in the regular season. I thought in the preseason and in the training camp, I thought you saw the growth, and he's got a good football IQ, and he's got a good level head to take coaching. So I think he's a guy you can maybe mold into somewhere with, a swing utility guy, or maybe even a starter at some point.
No, I agree with you. And as I mentioned, a lot of us, we look at LSU players and immediately you want to say, yeah, he's a fit.
Right.
I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that he's a New Orleans guy, an LSU guy. The guy can play.
Yeah.
And he came in, and look, as you mentioned, moment was not too big for him.
No, and he got thrust in on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
And, he got worked a couple times, but he held his own a couple times as well. And I thought overall, if it was a pass-fail grade, he passed.
Right.
He passed the test.
We talked a little bit about backup quarterback. It'll depend who's out there at some point. Our colleague Larry Holt is throwing out Tyrann Mathieu.
I threw it out
and
too.
You threw it out as well as a safety.
Love it.
Okay, me too. Made $7 million last year.
26 years old.
Oh, I know, and a playmaker. And look, any hesitation you might have had because of the issues, that's way in the past now. Okay, guy's a bona fide playmaker. He'll make everyone in that defensive backfield better. Can you afford him?
Well, the safety market last year was not good.
Right.
For team friendly, it was good for teams. It wasn't good for safeties. Maybe that increases this year. Can you afford him? You can. Let's just say you give him a contract that's worth more than $7 million a season. Well, you can do it whether the deal next year is low. The cap hit is $2-3 million next year.
You got that $20 million cap hit coming up though again with that $20 million contract with Michael Thomas coming up.
True, but the first year of that extension could be low as well. True. So I think he'd be a worthwhile investment. I think it really shocked me. I guess I shouldn't say shocked, but when I looked, I was doing my research, and I was like, man, he's still only 26. He's still got so much football left. And most importantly, this was my problem with him. Last 2 years, he's played 16 games. Both, and that was always my issue, is he's small, he's not holding up.
Yes.
But he's a guy, a guy like Dennis Allen, who likes to be creative, can allow that creativity to flow with a guy like Tyrann Mathieu who can wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
He can even play some strong side linebacker if he had to. And I know that sounds crazy for a 200-pound, 5'8" guy, but still, he could do that if he had to.
And playmaker.
I still to this day have never seen an LSU player dominate the way he dominated.
Yes.
He was just so unique the way he played. Now, he hasn't done that kind of stuff in the NFL, but still, he's a guy that, to me, he would fit in so well here.
62nd pick. 168th pick, 177th pick, 202nd pick, 231, 244.
If you added all those picks up, all right, and said, I'm going to take all my picks, how far up can I get with all these picks? You can go from 62 to 50. That's it. That's it. By trading seven
picks. You take everything, put it on the table.
62 to 50.
I like this guy. That's all you're getting.
62 to 50. That's how high you can go.
You've been around Sean Payton for a long time. You think he's sitting in that draft room waiting at 62?
I don't think he wants to. I think he's going to do everything he can to move up. There's no way he's going to go all. See, I don't know if they're going to be able to get into the first round. I think Sean knows that. Which would be. Good luck to the people next to him, and if he can't pick in the first round, because he's that guy, man. He's just antsy, gets going. But you and I both know, if he can't pick one in the first round, he ain't waiting all the way to 62 to pick in the second round. So that would be like 9 hours of draft time before he actually got the pick. Ain't happening. I think he's gonna figure out a way to move up, and not just move up from 62 to 50, 62 to like in the low 40s or high 30s to go up and get a guy that's probably got a first-round grade that's slipping.
Yeah. I get the question all the time. I know you get it all the time. Saints special teams have been phenomenal, okay? They've lacked really a playmaker back there to return kicks and punts. You don't know if you want to keep Alvin Kamara back there because you don't know if you want to risk him. What happened with, again, the changeover in coaching?
That's a great question because they really played well, and they did a lot of creative things with Westhoff, who really was the one that kind of unlocked Taysom Hill.
Yes.
He really was the guy that said, okay, let's get him some kind of way covering kickoffs, and Taysom Hill was willing. And then, the man crush happened with Sean Payton, and all of a sudden he was a part of the offense. So, because he had a full offseason with him. So, Westhoff was the guy that really unlocked the secret of Taysom Hill, if you really want to be honest.
Right. And Peyton really had to talk him out of retirement to come back, especially after the surgery.
So I don't know if it was something where he voluntarily left or was on the fence about coming back, but here they go, they're moving on. But I thought the special teams and the defense really, towards the end of the season, was what was carrying you to the NFC Championship.
Now, this
game.
guy Rizzi's supposed to be really
Really
good.
good, yeah.
You know, really good in terms of special teams. Maybe there won't be a drop-off, but it was surprising because really for the first time in a long time.
Well, they got really good players on special teams as well.
Yes.
I mean, Alex Okafor was a very underrated special teams player.
By design, though, right?
Craig Robertson is very good. Now, he's a free agent, but very good special teams player. Taysom Hill is obviously a great special teams player. I know, and short of the fake punt in the LA Rams game, Hardy is a very good special teams player who they're bringing back next year. So they got some really good play. And usually when you have great special teams, it's a good sign that you got pretty good depth on your roster because those guys are playing on special teams, not on offensive defense.
As we finish, speaking of Saints free agents, guys that you feel like they have to bring back.
I don't know that there's Tyler Davison jumps off the page because of the position is thin. I think they will bring back Mark Ingram. I don't know that. Do they have to? I say do it. I just say do it. I'm drawing a blank right now.
What about P.J. Williams?
P.J. Williams is interesting because of his arrest and because you have Patrick Robinson.
Right.
I don't think they're gonna break the bank to bring him back. I don't know if he's gonna break the bank in the open market. But
Craig Robinson?
Thought he played well. Craig Robinson's interesting because he's a core special teams guy, but he is north of 30. I could see him being a guy that they bring in later. He's a complimentary guy that it certainly doesn't hurt to have him. He's going to be cheap. P.J. Williams is an interesting one because if I'm matching up him and Patrick Robinson, I would say Patrick Robinson's probably a little bit better, but it can't hurt to have any depth at the cornerback
Plus,
position.
he's been a sure tackler for this team.
And he's been a good tackler. And he really, I mean, it was like the light bulb went. It's really something to see because that Minnesota game, he was left for dead.
He really was.
And all of a sudden, he makes one play, and boom, he's a different player.
Yes.
So I think, do you have to bring him back? You can clearly survive without him. But again, another locker room guy, another piece that was a glue guy for your team.
Free agency starts March the 13th, and we'll find out a lot about what's going on with the Saints. And of course, last weekend of April, the NFL draft. Shift gears to the New Orleans Pelicans. Anthony Davis will play the rest of the season, despite a lot of the fans and this host disdain for having him back on the bench. Danny Ferry takes the place of Dell Demps, about 5 years too late, but still, he's the interim GM. I found it interesting that the organization is really trying to distance Danny Ferry from Dell Demps, now putting out there he's only been in the building 5 days a month as a consultant, instead of again saying that he, which a lot of us said, myself included, he's tied to the hip on every move that Dell Demps has made over the last couple of years. But with that said, he's at least the interim guy right now. Your thoughts on the state of the Pelicans right now, and then start with Anthony Davis, insisting on playing, them not really pushing back against the NBA, and saying, look, he's, we'd rather not have him playing, basically because of, he's fragile and he's an asset. They're going to limit his minutes now to about 20. And they're not going to play him on back-to-backs, but anything can happen. I'm a little bit surprised the organization didn't draw a line in the sand.
Me too. And I'm equally as surprised with why do you want to subject yourself to this?
I have no idea. This
just awkward energy. Why do you want to subject yourself to this? I mean, you're not a bad guy, but you and your agent have made you the villain now. So now you got to ride this out. I'm trying to think. Is he thinking, well, I'm gonna just play it out, and we'll go on business as usual, and everything will be fine. I don't. There's a sense of like self-awareness, or I don't think he's quite all the way in mentally with what the magnitude of what has happened here. There just seems to be a little bit of distance between the reality of what's happened and what he perceives to be in his head. So he just got played by the guy that you hired.
Right.
To really set your career up. He just played it horribly. I don't understand why Anthony Davis would want to do it. But in saying that, I think we've all reached the point now where, okay, this is what's going to happen. So you roll the dice, you deserve everything you get. So if it happens and God forbid he suffers some sort of injury, you know what? Get ready for the criticism because it's coming.
Well, not just that. I mean, again, it's much like the NFL no call. All you're going to get is a sympathy card from the NBA.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Again, where the NBA is really pushing this narrative because he is a quote-unquote superstar and a top 5 player. He's an asset for this team right now. I am a guy that watches every game. I've not missed a game. it's hard for me to watch, to be honest with you. I look for the young core. I mean, I'm looking for Okafor and Williams and Diallo.
It's great to watch when he's on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, they play better without him.
They play much better. It's much better energy. And look, I talked about it a little bit.
There's a spirit like, oh, he doesn't want us, and now all of a sudden he get on the court. Well, even if they don't mean to do it, that's happening.
It's happening. There's no doubt about it. And then the other part of this, why would you be in a situation if you're Anthony Davis and try to force your way out? When you look at the West right now, if you weren't in this situation and guys were healthy and contributing, you would be in the mix right now for the 8th seed. Now, you may go to Golden State and get swept in 4, but there would be some excitement in this city for basketball right now instead of, okay, it's going to be a reset. We can't really get excited one way or the other until after the season's over and there's a possibility of the Anthony Davis sweepstakes and who we're going to get in return.
And that's just it. I think the root of all this is LeBron James being the spoiled child that he is.
Absolutely.
And just got just angry around his teammates and wanted to make the deal done now. I want it now. Right. I want it now. Let's make it happen. Right.
Fearful of not making the playoffs.
All Anthony Davis had to do was wait till the offseason, get traded, and he wouldn't be a villain. He would have been the sympathetic figure of another small market waste, another waste of a superstar in a small market, another team that can't manage, another mistake by the Pelicans. To now, you almost feel somewhat sympathetic towards the Pelicans because it's another lover scorn or whatever the case may be, and it's all he had to do was wait, and this whole narrative is completely different, and he couldn't do it. I would love to know if put him with put him on a lie. He's like, did you really have to do this right now?
Right.
I mean, really, there was no need to do this right now. He probably would have been like, I really don't want to do it. They just want to do it.
They looked at a weak organization with a lame duck general manager who had a novice, a female owner, first time in the business, and they thought they could bully them into moving him to Los Angeles, not realizing, and look, I've never been a super fan of the guy, but you call it the way you call it, not realizing that Mickey Loomis was in that room, and Loomis was not going to allow a bad deal to be made. Okay, and give Loomis credit for what Loomis does.
He's not going to allow them to be bullied.
No way.
He's not, because in Mickey's eyes, look, dude. I'm with the NFL. Okay, you think I'm gonna? You think I'm worried about you guys?
He sat across with some of the toughest agents in the country.
Come on, and he doesn't care about his reputation in NBA circles anyway.
Of course not.
And in the entitlement of the LA Lakers to say the Pelicans were not negotiating in good faith. Please cry me a river. And then Rachel Nichols and Brian Windhorst, they're reporting, the Lakers believe this was sabotage. I'm like, are y'all just LeBron's puppets here?
Right,
exactly. What are y'all doing? So, look, bad situation. And I thought Anthony Davis playing is a mistake by the organization. They just need to be like, don't play. Right. But I thought up until their decision to let him play, I thought the organization did what was right for them up until that point.
No, I would agree. And the organization looked like they had really done the right thing in the eyes of the fans as well. Don't get bullied. And I'll go back to your original point. Man, it was November when I was telling my audience that, you know what, enjoy Anthony Davis because this is it. We saw the handwriting on the wall. They weren't winning. You knew he wasn't going to stick around for another year. All he had to do was play this thing out. And again, like you just said, we all would have said, you know what, Anthony, we understand. Right. We saw it with Chris Paul. They stayed with Dell Demps too long. When you stayed here for 7 years and there wasn't and they didn't put a win around you consistently, go.
When was the last time a superstar openly speculated about the teams he wants to go to on the record? And how has the NBA not stepped in?
No doubt.
But the only rule you're going to force in all this is him playing.
Right.
The one thing that can screw everything up for your brand, for Anthony Davis, for your marquee LA Lakers franchise.
True.
That's the only rule you want to enforce right now. It's just, people talk a lot about the NFL and they had their problems, but A, they crushed the NBA when it comes to total revenue, ratings, and all that stuff. And B, can we please stop with this idea that the NBA has all the answers? Because they just don't.
They don't. And let me tell you, Adam Silver is a commissioner that likes New Orleans, wants a team in New Orleans. We get it. But David Stern would have not allowed this to happen. David Stern would have shut the Lakers down.
Well, Adam Silver's problem is he wants to be too much of a player-friendly commissioner.
Yes.
And he's afraid to step in
right.
and be the disciplinarian that he's got to be. He would rather, kind of just appease LeBron James.
I don't like what David Stern did in terms of the Chris Paul deal. I will give Dell Demps some credit. The deal that he was trying to make would have kept the then Hornets, now Pelicans, in the playoffs. Okay, but again, Stern made the deal because he was the quote-unquote owner of the Hornets at that time. But this time around, you would love to have a David Stern shut the Lakers down and of course, make sure that at this point that the club's interests were being taken care of, not so much the player. I do want to ask you this before we move on to college basketball. Jrue Holiday, $26 million over the next 3 years. An incredible player. And even now you can see that he's even flourishing even more without Anthony Davis on the court. But God, the guy's got so much value going forward. They're going to be there's going to be a dilemma in the offseason as they rebuild this franchise, depending on the pieces they get back. Whether they trade Anthony Davis to Boston and they get Tatum and a bunch of their young core, like Smart and Rozier and others, or they opt for the draft picks or wherever they send him. What do you do with Jrue Holiday? Because to me, he's a hot commodity. To me, he's a guy that you're going to get some value back for him. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, he's also a guy that could be a leader for your team.
I say keep him. That's my take. I say keep him, and I've really grown to respect him over the last couple of weeks because I don't know if you've ever talked to him. He's got a calming demeanor, and I think he's kind of in that locker room right now, the chaos, the dumpster fire, as it's been called. He seems like the guy that's kind of kept everything at ease a little bit. It's kind of calmed the waters a little bit. He's playing phenomenal. He's top 5 defensive guard, in my opinion, in the NBA, and it's not something that gets glamorized a lot. But we saw it in the playoffs last year just how good of a defender he is and how much obviously the Pelicans feed off that. And if you're going to make deals, make a deal to get draft picks, young veterans. To me, you're going to need somebody to rally the troops to kind of. From an intangible standpoint, because AD was never that guy. He's not a leader. No. At least an alpha leader. I don't know, and I don't know that Jrue Holiday is a yell at everybody, Chris Paul type, but he does feel like a guy that's well respected. I would keep him around. And look, at the time they signed that contract, we were kind of like, really? I don't know. He's been injuries, this and that, but I think when it's all said and done, I think they're going to be glad they did that. That's why I say keep Jrue Holiday. And if you get some young veterans and some draft picks and it's a couple All-Stars, I think you can reset this franchise pretty quickly. And as I've always said, you can do better than what you had with Anthony Davis, who only had 2 winning seasons and 1 playoff victory.
Look, let me tell you something. It's hard to watch a talent like Anthony Davis walk out the door, but the possibilities are endless now. When you look at, again, what you may get back for him. And that's why it's critical. The hierarchy that's coming up, whether it be president, general manager, whether it be president, general manager that are going to be separate within that organization, and then they hire the head coach, you got to have a guy that understands talent, that knows how to develop talent, that can spot talent, but also is a great negotiator and has the ability to be able to, again, make this trade. This is the trade that sets up the organization for the next 5 to 7 years.
And maybe I'm crazy because it's such a big deal, but if I were the Pelicans and let's have a realistic view of who we are. If you're the Pelicans, a small market team, let's find somebody that's going to think outside the box and get a little creative. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's an up and coming guy up the ranks that's got some fresh ideas, as opposed to kind of a retread guy to bring in and run the show. So I'm curious who the hire is going to be. And if it were me, given the state of the Pelicans, and you're kind of a niche city as it is in terms of a small market, but there are people that love it. I would get a guy that's got some fresh ideas, a new way of looking at things, and maybe set some trends around the NBA.
Well, the landscape of the NBA is changing, especially with the possibility of them changing the age limit and allowing kids to come directly from high school to the NBA. Every team will have a G League team now. They're going to have a farm system. So you got to have someone that understands how to, again, evaluate talent, can develop talent. That's going to be the key going forward. Look, you and I have talked about this on the radio show. Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, both guys will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Both guys were considered top 5 in their position. You never could be able to woo a free agent to New Orleans. So you're going to have to home grow that talent this time around.
Yeah, homegrown talent, key trades. You're not going to go out in the market and get the marquee guys anymore. And look, there were times where Dell, on the surface, made decent deals, and he was the king of always making that one deal where you said, okay, well maybe let's ride it out with this deal. Yes. He made that one last deal, right before you felt like it was the end for him. Mirotic was a great deal, but he had some bad deals, obviously. So I think the focus has to change from the approach that Dell took to you're going to have to get lucky in the draft at some point.
No doubt. Let's shift to LSU again. 23-5, 13-2 in the SEC. They're in first place. 13th ranked. By the way, before we get into LSU, I want to give some props out to Coach Schlesinger and the UNO Privateers. They are in second place right now in the Southland, and a chance to be able to get that double bye in the Southland Conference tournament. He has got them peaking in March, and we'll talk more about them in next week's show. But again, LSU, you can't overlook what they've been able to do thus far, winning without Waters, which again is huge for this team.
Well, Wade, man, I mean, that guy gets it. I mean, he gets it. I mean, and it ain't like they beat a couple scrubs. I mean, they beat Tennessee, obviously, number 5 team in the country at the time. I like the way this team's built. I read the stat sheet from the Texas A&M victory. I look at it, all 5 starters in double figures, but no one over 18 points. Right. It's just there's a complementary element to this game. Big B Williams to me has become one of my favorite players on the team. He just seems to be a timely guy that he just makes big plays when it matters most. Javonte Smart
Williams as well.
Javonte Smart. I didn't know he had that takeover ability, at least not right now, like he did in the Tennessee game. That was something to watch.
Unstoppable to the rim.
I mean, all of a sudden he's getting to the rim. And then obviously Will Wade stresses defense. I like the way this team is. I like the way they look. And, look, I think this is a team that it's good to be talking about. God, I even said it in my sportscast the other night. Normally when it's late February, you're talking, okay, start of baseball season.
Yeah.
But now you got pretty significant college basketball. We were talking in the sports office today. If they win and get a conference title, regular season conference title, does that get them to a 2 seed? Does it get them to a 3 seed?
It possibly could.
Especially if you have a few wins in the
tournament.
In a tournament, mm-hmm. That's something.
That would be something.
Yeah.
That's a long way from Dale Brown too, as well. I like this team. I like the way. Again, I think they're a better team inside out than outside in.
No doubt.
Okay, I know that Waters is a nice 3-point shooter. Mays has his shot. I think Javonte Smart has really shown that again, this team should be able to try to hit the glass, should be able to take the ball to the rim. Just the guys that come and clean up. You mentioned Big B Williams, Emmett Williams, Naz Reid around the rim. Taylor. I mean, spectacular. He's going to be that's a guy that again you see this kid. He's going to have a chance with his athleticism to play in the pros. It'll be interesting to see again how far they go. How far do you think they can go?
Well, I know people are going to throw the no experience card, but look, it's college basketball. Everybody's young and youthful and that sort of thing. So I think this is a team that's built to make a run. To me, I think if you fell short of the Sweet 16, I think it would be somewhat of a disappointment.
Me too.
But I do think 1, 2, if not 3 wins in the NC2A tournament to me would be LSU basketball. It probably is already back on the map, but still, I think that would be a nice season for them.
We don't have time really to get into the Will Wade subpoena situation. Hopefully, that is nothing more than again him going in and having to testify, because again, he has really done a great thing for this program.
Well, lock him up. I don't know when you can, because there's blue bloods out there that are going to come circling.
Right.
Indiana's not doing too well right now. I don't know if their coach is on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. That's a blue blood school.
Yep.
You better lock him up while you can.
And a caller mentioned it on my radio show today. Got to do some renovations to the PMAC as well.
All that stuff, because if you want a guy like that to stay, he's going to get what he wants.
Exactly. It's
going
to be Nick Saban.
Salary. It's not
going to be just like Nick Saban.
Just like Nick Saban. You're right.
Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports. Fantastic job as always. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV at 10 p.m. Also statewide on Pelican Sports Television, 9 p.m. every Friday night. You can catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2, and the iHeartRadio app. That's noon to 2 weekdays. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports can be seen at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to our guests tonight, Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports, also the WLA production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Happy Mardi Gras to one and all. We'll see you back here for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports next week. Thanks for watching.